Champions Cup semi-final number 2 has been played, and it's Leinster 30 points to 12 winners over Toulouse over there in Dublin. It's a pretty domineering display. I just finished watching the game. Kind of as comfortable as Saracens looked in their game, always kind of beyond reach. It was perhaps even more so in this game. I mean, Toulouse did take a very brief lead. They kicked the first penalty of the game to Ramos, but Sexton evened it up about 6 minutes later. And then Lowe had the first try of the game. He showed a bit of gas. And it was kind of all what that Leinster team was about in that first try. It was the ball was going through the hands of the front rowers, of the loose forwards, of the backs, and it ended up in the hands of the winger. And he did well to dot the ball down, and it was converted 10 points to 3. 24 minutes in, Richie Gray had a yellow card when Leinster were on attack. He, I guess, cynically kind of fiddled around with the ball in the ruck, caused McGrath to knock it on, and that was it was pretty costly because with him in the bin, Leinster turned down the 3, went for the 7, and they sure did get it. McGrath got there from the back of a maul. I initially thought it was Vardy, but it was McGrath. Yeah, that was on 25 minutes, pretty much straight after the yellow card, so it was 7-0, I guess, in the yellow card period. It was 17-3 on the scoreboard. Not long after Henshaw was yellow carded as well, so both sides had a man in the bin. It was 14-on-14 for a while, with a deliberate knock on. For that one, Toulouse went for the penalty. Apparently they wanted to go for touch, but Wayne Barnes said that somebody had already come on with a kicking tee, which essentially has made the decision for you, so they had to kick the penalty. That made it 17 points to 6, and the yellow card period ended up being 7 points to 3 in Leinster's favour. So I guess closer than it could have been. Sexton missed a penalty and a drop goal as well before half-time, but it was 17-6 at half-time. Looking pretty comfortable, but still far from game over. And then Toulouse, second half, came out and kicked a penalty, made it 17 points to 9. I guess, again, within touching distance, just trying not to let Leinster get too far away. But Vardy got his try after many phases, and they had a few advantages within that, so they would have come back even if they hadn't scored. It was 24 points to 9. At that point, it was really looking kind of nail in the coffin stuff. Toulouse did kick another penalty just to keep within touching distance, 24-12, but still, that's still 2 scores away, which was looking unlikely. And then Sexton got a penalty and Byrne got a penalty right before the end, so 30 points to 12. Is the way it finished. No tries for Toulouse, just 4 penalties, and the 3 tries for Leinster. Very controlled display, and it's an interesting one because all the talk before this game, at least in the media, was about how these Leinster guys are perhaps a bit underdone. They've been rotating the squad too much. These guys aren't going to be cohesive into this game. Having looked at that, they look like a pretty well-oiled machine to me. I mean, there were very few errors. They had, I mean, Sexton missed his drop goal, but it was not by much, and it was a big kick. It was just the distance that let him down. He had the accuracy. Toner dropped one line-up ball. Oh, and I should say that Toner at one point did drop a kickoff, and it resulted in Henshaw's yellow card a few phases later. So I guess that guy hadn't played for a while, perhaps a little bit of rust, but overall you wouldn't have many complaints about that. It was a very good vibe when the game started. Alan Quinlan was doing a bit of his punditry, and at one point when the players came out onto the field, I could not hear what he was saying very clearly because the crowd was that loud. They said the attendance was 42,960, which when you compare it to the previous semi-final, which had 16,000, I suppose is it's a massive difference. Again, I'm not saying too much because it was only last year here in New Zealand that Super Rugby finals were not sold out. So, not finals, semi-finals were not sold out. So, yeah, it's a thing, but this one wasn't a sellout, but still, almost 43,000 is pretty good. Toulouse, despite the fact that they were talked up before this game as the side that was kind of these guys had played more games. They were the ones making the errors. Like Ramos kicked it. He had a few errors. He kicked it dead from a kickoff. here he got charged down. They kind of scrambled the recovery, but eventually it was from there that after he got charged down, they managed to stop Leinster from getting the ball, but it ended up being a Leinster scrum, and it was not long later that that Richie Gray got his yellow card. So it was kind of errors that led to bigger consequences for them. Cronin went off injured as well, which was unfortunate. And I guess worse for Toulouse is the fact that at one point they had a penalty, they had the extra man, so Richie Gray had come back on, Henshaw was still in the bin. They got a penalty, they kicked it into Leinster's half, and then they had a line-out which they just failed to get. I think the halfback knocked it on from there. So it was, yeah, pretty disappointing. They did almost have a try to lose, but there was a kind of a simultaneous grounding moment with Medard, but it wasn't enough to get a try. And towards the end, last 10 minutes, Toulouse did have a bit of ball, but Leinster just held them out. Toulouse were going through phases, and they would just get turned over, penalties or whatever. So yeah, that Leinster defence was looking pretty good. So yeah, Lowe could have had a couple more tries. One was TMO'd and one he knocked on, which is unfortunate, but he still had a pretty good game. He had 5 defenders beaten and almost 60 run meters. Carney had 4 defenders beaten. Ringrose had 4. Colby had 7. He always beats a lot of defenders, that guy, but he only managed 23 run meters, which for him is kind of not enough to get it done. Yeah, in terms of defenders, Elstad led the way with the tackles, 20 out of 22. Gray had 19, Conan had 18, Ryan and Toner, always workhorses, had 16 each. So, yeah, I guess the stats do kind of bear a bit of looking at when you see where Toulouse lost this game. And I mean, apart from the fact that Leinster had almost 60% of the ball and territory, penalties were fairly even, but turnovers conceded, despite only having 40-odd% of the ball, 16 to Toulouse, only 9 to Leinster. So you're having less ball, but you're making more mistakes with it. And again, that kind of goes against what all the media pundits were saying before this one, when they were trying to, I guess, talk it up a wee bit. So, yeah. I mean, Sexton, I think he got man of the match. He made, I mean, I wouldn't really call his drop goal a mistake, because he went for it. It was on. It was long distance. He only just missed it. It was a kind of good heads-up play that could have paid off. He did kick the ball out on the full once, but otherwise he had a pretty solid game. So good to see him back. Good to see Toner back. Whatnot. But it's a big-looking final now between Leinster and Saracens over in Newcastle. Yeah, both the teams look pretty comfortable in their semi-finals, so it should be a cracking game there. Looking forward to that. That's in May. So, yeah, how did you guys think of this game? Any predictions for the final, or is it a bit too early for that? You guys let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.